You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.
I almost sat on it.
Wow.
You see my 45?
What the fuck?
No,
Why
I
are you
was
showing
moving,
us your gun, man.
no, because I had to take it off the chair. I was cleaning
Alan,
it.
I told you not to do anything stupid, man.
No, it's not stupid. I was cleaning. I sat on it.
Okay, get rid of it. We got to start the podcast.
This nonsense of not knowing how to get the fucking Zoom up, and I got to put it back on the kitchen table.
Okay, Alan, get rid of it. We saw it. Great.
Yeah. No, I know your feelings about
this. Is our first Zoom interview, Greg.
I'm sorry, Greg. I didn't
cool,
mean,
man.
I didn't mean for Keith to start urinating in his pants at the. He's got military background. I don't think he's going to start crying about this.
Is that true, Greg? Do you have military background?
I not really. I went to the military academy my first year of college.
All right, I'm sorry. I guess.
How is that?
It was good, man. I mean, I think it was probably maybe not the right place for me, but it was a pretty cool experience as I look back. Yeah.
I apologize because this is my first Zoom interview, so I don't really know how to work Zoom. But I want you to know I watched your special this morning.
Oh, cool! Thanks, man.
I thought it was the funniest thing. Like, I don't know about you, but like when I watch comedy, if it's not good within like the first two jokes, I'll turn it off. But I actually watched the whole thing.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks a lot.
Like, it's very clean too. Not a lot. Dirty.
Yeah, that's sort of kind of been my style. I don't know. I evolved to that. I wasn't always quite that clean, but yeah, I was never raunchy, but I was probably more profane than I am now.
Now, would you say like that gets easier the longer you do comedy? Because when I first started, I was probably raunchy too, but it wasn't funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably everything gets easier the longer you do comedy because it's just such a unnatural thing to do. Especially those first 5 or 6 years, man. It is just doesn't feel right.
Yeah,
it's impossible to relax up there.
How old were you when you started? Because you had a job as a salesman too.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of like kind of false starts, I guess. I did it in college, but just only a couple of times. I wasn't really focused on it at all. And then when I got out of college, I had like you said, I had a day job. I was selling Pringles and Dunkin' Hines and Jif and stuff to like grocery stores and grocery wholesalers. And I would do stand up off and on during that 10-year period. The last 4 years, probably almost all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then I eventually quit my day job and went out there. So.
Now, when you were working as a sales job, were you like already an accomplished headliner, or
no, not even close. No, not even by any chance. Definition of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was the MC. I was just a guy that was doing local hosting at the local comedy club, and that's probably why I quit because I just didn't want to be the MC anymore. And I went on the road that first year, being the middle act all over the country. It's back when you could work 52 weeks as a middle act and they'd put you up and pay you a little bit of money. Yeah.
Now they don't pay anyone because like now because I got promoted to middle act by Norm, and then this whole thing happened. So I'm not with Norm anymore, but they don't pay as much as they did 6 years ago. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's really hard, back in the day. It was a tough living, but you could almost make a living, being a feature act. It was, you scrape it out and you drive all over the country, but now it's impossible. Most of the clubs, use local guys. Yeah.
Now, when you go on the road, do you have like a say on the local guys? Like when they give you look them up to see if they fit your style?
No, I try not to do that. I mean, every now and then I'll bring somebody, one of my friends or something. Yeah. But yeah, I try not to do that. I may have to. It's weird because now that I have done a few things, there's been a couple of things out there that have been clean or whatever.
Yeah.
So now I feel like there might be some audience member that shows up and expects to see a clean show, and then I'll always clean. But if the two guys in front of me are really dirty, I feel like I never say anything because I feel like, man, it's my responsibility to handle it. And if they want to, I don't want to tell people how to do their act because I wasn't always that clean early on. So, but I may, if we ever get back to doing live stand-up comedy, I may think about like, okay, the last two specials have been completely clean. So it's probably fair to keep the show relatively clean for people that don't want to come.
Yeah. Now, how long did it, because I actually just released my special. And
oh, cool, man.
Yeah. It took me, I filmed it like 2 years ago and it just got released. Like,
oh, wow, man. Yeah. Where can people watch it?
It's on Mad Records right now.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, I mean, it's not a big thing, but I'm trying to get it on Prime right now. But that's not the point. The point is it took me a long time just to do it. How long did it take you for this one?
Well, what do you mean by that? Like
edit, and obviously you recorded a weekend there, right? Or was it a one show thing?
We recorded on one night. It was at a theater in Illinois, and we recorded 2 shows, and then it was pretty much out of my hands after that. There was I had a say in the editing process, but the producers, they kind of moved it. I think so. We filmed it in like July, and it was pretty much fully edited by December, and then then I think they started pitching it a little bit January. It was weird because that's when all the COVID started happening and all that.
Yeah.
So we wound up going to Prime. I think they made that decision somewhere in like April, and it wound up there in late June. But it was. It's a
process.
It probably could have been quicker, but I think I switched titles there at the like in the middle of it, which sort of probably cost us a month or so. I was just like, I don't want that title, man, because I saw something on the internet where it was like it was like this obscure band in Australia. I was going to go with the title Undercover Crops. Or Undercover Crop, because it's like it's like a play on words, and that pun is in my act, and it's it's about farming and stuff, but like I just Googled it, and then I'm a little OCD, so I was like, this band in Australia has that name, so I don't know if I want to do it. So I wound up being like, I don't feel right taking this, and they're like, what are you talking about? This band in Australia has like 12 hits on their YouTube video. I'm like, I know still, but maybe let's just find something that nobody's done. So we did, Where the Field Corn Grows, which is a sort of a play on words on the novel Where the Red Fern Grows, which is a book that I didn't read, I'm ashamed to say. But So I look back, I'm like, I probably cost us 2 months in the editing process because I was like waffling on the name and stuff like that. But yeah, they were, I went back and forth with the producer on the edits, and they were really, really fun to work with.
Yeah. The cover too on the title was awesome.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. It was funny. I had this roommate when I was living in LA years ago, my buddy Sean Gannett. He had like some headshots done when he was living in Omaha, and it was just some camera, like somebody that had obviously never taken comedian headshots before. So they were just like fooling around, and one of them like said Sean Gannett, comedian extraordinaire or something like that, and then the other one like had a picture of him in a cornfield with like no context of it, and like he accidentally left him out one time on our kitchen table, and I found him. And he didn't want anybody to see him, man. And I was like, what are these? He's like, oh God. And I like faxed them to all our friends and, like sent them around making fun of them. So cut to like, 15 years later, I'm doing this farming special, and we're out at this farm taking pictures. And the guy kept saying, well, why don't we get a picture of you in the cornfield? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Because I just knew if I did, Gannett was just gonna make fun of me because I completely I wouldn't let go of the cornfield thing. Like for years I sent that thing. So I was like, no, I don't want to do it. So we took pictures all day at this farm, or half a day, and they were okay. And finally at the end, I'm like, all right, man, I'll do the thing in the cornfield. I just accepted it. And I had this like kind of a Starbucks cup. We knew we wanted to do something with a like Starbucks type cup or a coffee cup. And so we took him, and of course that's the best one by far. And there's like 3 other pictures, and then there's just god awful, terrible pictures of me like laying on a tractor or something. I mean, it's just God help me if people get a hold of those pictures.
So did it surprise you when you found out the picture you didn't like was the best one?
Well, yeah, no, it didn't, because I was like, this is probably the best idea. I'm just going to hear it from Gannett. So I just literally on the way from the photo shoot, I called Gannett. I'm like, yeah, dude, you're probably going to have a good time with this. But I knew as soon as we got it, I knew this was the picture. It was the last thing we did all day was take, this picture of me, like I said, some of the other ones were terrible, man. It's one of the things I found with like headshots or any of that kind of like, anytime I've ever done headshots or any of that stuff or any kind of photo stuff for albums, it's always like you think, well, we'll get a ton of stuff. It's always like, no, there's 3 good pictures and 98 awful, awful pictures.
Yeah. Like 3 good pictures and 1 hour of wasting my time.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, 2. Yeah. I'm just like it's not the photographer's fault.
But how long did it take you to come up with this material about farming? Because I thought farming was like taking care of animals and shit, and you mostly talked about the plants and the food.
Yeah, mostly. I mean, the thing. I mean, usually I start the clock when you're when you record something. Now you got to start over. And so it was probably like 3.5 years or something since I had recorded something. And, towards the end, that last like 6 months is when I got, there was some farming material on there, but a buddy of mine was like, you should, like do more of that. Make it a, sort of the central theme of the special.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, it's not all farming, but yeah, it's the sort of, I've never tried to do that where it's like one central theme.
Yeah, that's what I really liked a lot about it, because it started off with one place and then it went, but it was in the same lane, and it just totally stayed there the entire time.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching. It's really nice of you.
Oh, of course, man. I love it. I heard you on Cyrus Radio. I know you. You get a lot of hits on that, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, they've been really good to me over the years. In fact, the guy at Sirius was the one that told me, "Hey, man, double down on the farm stuff."
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's a guy that I've known for a long time, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I would do more of that." And there's a guy that I know, really great comic named Drew Hastings that is a farmer. He's not your typical farmer. He's like kind of a metrosexual guy, big, tall, guy, but he has a farm in Ohio, and he did a special about farming on Comedy Central years ago. It was but mine was more from the perspective of an outsider, actually.
No, that was another question I have. Like, when you're getting to record material and stuff, do you ever, like Drew Hastings, he said he had a special about farming. Like, did you ever watch it to make sure you're not in that same leadway talking about the same pass?
I didn't. I mean, Drew and I toured together for years, so I'd seen some of it, but I didn't. I tried to call him to be like, "Hey, man, I'm doing this farming thing. I hope you don't, and he never got back to me. So I was like, and I talked to a buddy of mine, a real close friend, a guy, Henry Phillips, that's one of my good friends, and he's close with Drew. And I was like, "Hey, man, does any of this stuff," because he watched the whole thing several times, and he's like, "No, this is nothing what Drew was doing." And again, Drew's, he's coming at it at a little bit different angle.
Because in my act, I have a form of autism called Asperger's syndrome.
Sure.
My act is literally just an hour of me talking about having autism and stuff. So I get a lot of requests to do autism shows and stuff, but I always know, because there's always going to be other autistic people, and I don't want to mix with that. You know what I mean? Like I
I
like
don't know, man. I think you mean other autistic comics or other people at the show?
no other autistic comics like talking about very similar things, and it's like
Oh, I wouldn't, as long as it's personal, I just think, I used to be terrified of that. And I still am to some degree, like worried I'm going to tread on the same ground as somebody else. But I think you just check yourself, you may wind up a shade to the wrong side every now and then, and you just got to check yourself, and hopefully your friends will check you and be like, hey man, you might not want to do that thing, somebody else is doing it. If you got good friends and that are comics, usually they'll kind of let you know. You can spot it. You can see and every now and then people will kind of hit on the same topic. But if it's especially something as personal as autism and Asperger's, like, I think that's, that doesn't mean that one guy doesn't have the right to be the only one to talk about autism. I don't think,
Yeah. Well, maybe I should put that aside, though. Maybe I just find it, I don't know, because from my perspective, when I see a show, I like seeing different comics from different backgrounds. And like if I see autistic people, I'll be like, who's Keith Reza? You know what I mean? Like, it would,
I don't know, man. I think they'd love to, hear the perspective from somebody, because you're talking about doing a show for other people with autism.
Yeah.
They're all sure they all have autism, and so do you, but they're not funny, like they're not funny for a living, I mean, that's what you do. So I think they'd probably really appreciate hearing from you, as long as it's true and funny and well written. I think it's probably a good thing to do. Probably fairly lucrative too, when you have this sort of special groups. That's something cool. Now
you're in St. Louis right now, right?
Yeah, man.
Is that by like the Mississippi River?
Yeah. It's it's right on the city itself is right on the river. Yeah.
Mark Twain country.
Yeah, Alan. It's like, so Hannibal, which is where Mark Twain is from, is about 2 hours north. 2 hours north driving. I don't know on the river. That's, I'm sure, how he got up and down. Yeah, but
let me ask. Might sound like a silly. Is it Missouri or Missouri?
Depending on what part. If you live in St. Louis, it's Missouri. Most of the state, Missouri. If you're a hillbilly, it's Missouri, probably.
I was there like last year because I made the finals for the World Series of Comedy.
Oh yeah, man, that was yeah. I remember when they had that actually casino is in sort of a rough part of it's in Illinois. It's in a rough part of the city, but
yeah. Have you ever performed at that casino?
Yeah, once or twice. No, it's a long time ago though. Yeah.
Okay, so I take it that was pretty difficult for you too, because like I got there and I was like, "Holy Lord, where?"
Yeah, when I heard they were having it there, I was like, "What are you guys doing?" But then somebody told me that they had good crowds there, so
yeah,
I didn't go.
I went up the first night and it wasn't a good crowd. There was like 4 people in the audience.
That's what I was afraid of, man. For all these guys coming in from all over the country, and it's like, and now you're putting them in an area where it's going to be really hard to get people to go.
Yeah. So what I did was like I tried calling like other clubs to see if like I knew any comics who were performing there, see if I could do a guest spot or whatever, and they all said no. So I just went back home.
Yeah, I think it's trickier. I mean, it'd probably be better if you'd have just showed up, or gone to the open mic, and sometimes.
But when you're on the road and you're not getting paid for that unless you win the World Series, it's like that,
Yeah, that's tricky, man. Yeah.
Speaking of the World Series, do you think baseball is going to get canceled right now?
I don't know, man. I'm a huge fan. I think they're going to try to struggle through. We'll see. It's sort of the just the phrase of the year is I don't know. I mean, there's like everybody has a theory on sort of everything to do with COVID, and none of it is all that valid, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably right in the circle where I believe every theory. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've found that I'm easily swayed, where especially with some I remember like, I mean, I don't really talk about politics at all in my act, but I rarely talk about it at all in public, but I'm a pretty liberal guy, and there's that movie, the Fox News movie or whatever.
Right.
They came out, and they asked me to audition to play Hannity. I guess I kind of look a little bit like Sean Hannity, which who I don't agree with politically at all. I don't. And as a journalism major, so I don't really think he's a reliable journalist, I guess, that whole genre.
Yeah.
But I was watching him for days trying to sort of get some of his mannerisms so I could emulate him and some of that stuff in his speech pattern. And, like after like 2 days, I'm like, yeah, man, some of this makes sense. And I'm like, wait, no, wait. Because I'm just so easily swayed sometimes. I was like, yeah, what he's saying makes sense. And then I was like, no, this is not who I am. This does not make sense. Stop it. Yeah.
Now, is it hard for you? Because, I mean, I know you've done some acting, but you're not really known for that. You're more known as a comic.
I mean, I've done very, very little acting, I mean,
yeah.
there was I lived in LA for a while, and I lived in New York a while, not too long ago. When I was in New York, I was felt like I was getting better and sort of getting a lot of good auditions. So that was, but I wasn't good.
Yeah.
I was improving. I can act, but auditioning sort of this whole other skill that I was getting better at it, but I still probably had a long way to go. And then a few things happened. I wanted to come back to St. Louis, so I'll act in my own stuff or things like that. But yeah, there's some really talented actors out there. I know how long it took to be good at comedy, and I'm sure it takes just as long to be a good actor, and I haven't put those hours in.
Now, do you have like a bad audition story where you just thought, I'll stick with comedy right now?
I'm sure a lot of them were. I don't know if anyone were. There's one of my buddies. One time, I think I had some host audition for when it was a long time ago when I lived in LA. My buddy Jimmy Dore was like, "Yeah, man. A lot of times he's like." Because they give you like the copy that have all the jokes, for this, like, "Hey, welcome to so-and-so." And then you make this. He's like, "Man," he goes, "those jokes are, a lot of them are pretty good. They like it if you write your own stuff in there, put your own jokes in there." So I like kind of wrote my whole thing, and I went in there and I'm doing it. And the casting director's like, "Hey, stop. What are you doing? What are you doing?" I'm like, I kind of wrote my own thing here. He's like, "Don't do that. Don't do that, man. Don't do that." I'm like, "Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks a lot, man."
And then Jimmy got the part, huh?
Yeah. Then Jimmy.
Oh man. But one thing I also noticed on your special is, and I think a lot of comics actually do this, where I am probably in the percentage where I don't. I leave the mic in the stand. I don't take the mic out. Like,
oh yeah. I have fooled with that a little bit, but yeah, I like holding the mic. It's rare that yeah.
How long did it take you to get like good at it? Like, was it an awkward thing when you first started? Because I just can't do it. Like,
no, that came a lot more naturally to me than leaving it in the stand. Actually, that just came.
Really?
Yeah. It just felt a little more. So it's probably a little harder for me to do it, early on in my career, like leaving it in the stand. Yeah.
Wow. Like, because I look at it as the stand where, like, because I'm so awkward, I look at it as the stand as like my shield. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just so you know, man, they can see around that.
Yeah, I think they can. But I don't know. I just like go up there and talk and stuff. But Alan, have you ever seen me take the mic out of the stand?
No, not out of the sand or the stand. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
No,
I don't think I've ever done it in 13 years.
No, you keep it in the stand. I got to admit. Yeah.
I don't know. I guess like, but I heard like, because I took a comedy class when I first started. It was from like Judy Carter or whatever. And she said there's 2 rules in comedy. Rule number 1, you got to take the mic out of the stand. And rule number 2, you got to write. And I was just like, well, where's been funny?
Yeah, man.
Like,
No,
that should be rule number one, right? Be funny.
I think there's probably more than 2 rules. I think, yeah.
Greg, what are your rules in comedy? What are your secrets?
Well, I don't know if they'd be rules because, but for myself, I mean, I found that there's certain things I do. It seems to stack the odds a little bit more in my favor. I do think you got to write. I try to journal, most days. I say most days. It hasn't been most days lately, but I try to do some sort of free writing, just pen on the paper and keep it moving and then, as I'm doing that, it's like, I don't know. I find like it's really hard to think about what's funny. So I've sort of learned if there's something, what's interesting or what interrupted the continuum of the day, sometimes you can turn into what's funny.
Yeah.
And then I think listening to your act is really, really powerful. Sometimes somebody gave me some advice to do it both ways. He said, do it, when you're doing something else, like when you're doing the dishes or driving or, surfing the internet, just to sort of get used to your speech patterns, especially early in your career.
Yeah.
So that, I don't know, that seemed like, that was good advice, Then I get a couple other writing exercises.
Do the crosswords help you with right?
I think, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a similar mindset in that I think like if you're doing a crossword puzzle, oftentimes you're like, I don't know the answer here. I just can't, I have no idea what the answer is until you get a couple of letters and you chip away at it and you sort of find, maybe you back your way into the answer, which I think with joke writing is similar. You're like, I know there's something funny here and I can't quite get to it. So I'm just going to sort of write around it a little bit and see if I can find something on the tangent of that and maybe work my way back into something that's funny. So I think there's, similar mindsets where it's like you're working on something that the solution isn't apparent, or it's not right. It's just like, oh, I just work on this and it's done. No, it's going to be a little tricky to get to it.
Does with this whole thing that's going on right now in the country, does podcasting and like Zoom shows help you? Or does it like?
I mean, we do that crossword puzzle podcast, my buddy Brendan Ayer and I, and that has helped me, I think, a lot. Just my sense of humor in general, and it keeps my mind working.
Yeah.
Because I write jokes for that every week. I sit down and go through all the puzzles and literally look at every crossword puzzle clue for the entire week of the New York Times crossword puzzle and be like, which ones are funny. So you keep your mind working, and it's sometimes you get a little bit lazy about writing for your act, or I do, and because there's no shows, so it's like, but this thing forces me to at least write jokes every week, and it's also forces me to like, you have to, there's a time thing on it, which as a stand-up comic, it's like I don't really have any timeline. I just write, and when I get something funny, I put it on stage, and we're talking probably 3 years or 2 years before the next CD or special comes out. So it's like there's not a ton of pressure to write time-wise. But on this, it's like, no, I got to come up with something funny. And sometimes as comedians, you're like, I have to come up with something that's the funniest thing in the world. Well, we're not going to do that for this week's. I'm going to try to come up with something funny, a page full of funny jokes, by Sunday morning. So that's helped. I don't do the Zoom shows. Like I haven't. I kind of, and I'll do stuff like this, but I really don't want to do stand-up comedy on the internet. And maybe that'll change someday. But right now, I'd rather not.
Yeah, I got offered a Zoom show and I denied it, but then I watched it to see how it would be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I kind of wish I didn't deny it because it looked kind of fun after seeing Julia Sweeney kill.
Oh, cool, man.
If she could do it over Zoom, you think maybe she could? Because I've never act. I've just seen her on SNL, so she could do it great on Zoom. I'm sure she's hilarious in person.
I bet, man. Yeah.
So, but going back to the writing the specials, there's some guys that they could do a new special every year, like Louis C.K. or Dave Chappelle and stuff. Like, how do you think that your mind sets from that? Because
It's weaker than those.
Really?
My mind is weaker than Louis C.K. No, those guys are, they're top of their game. I don't think I could crank out a special in a year. To me, it's usually about 3 or 4 years in between projects for me. And I've sort of found if I can write a new really good 20 to 25 in a year, that's great.
Yeah.
So, it seems like I've gotten better at it, but yeah, putting a special out a year, I think would be pretty rough. And a lot of people say, well, yeah, Louis does it. Yeah. He's also one of the best comedians ever. Dave Chappelle, one of the best comedians ever. Like they're really good. And they weren't doing it early on in their career,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like the last 10 years, that's when it started to really.
Yeah.
Like, I have a theory about that. You want to, like.
Sure. Yeah.
Hear my conspiracy theory? I think that they started writing these jokes before they started doing comedy. And as they started, they were like testing it out. And then when they got really good, they said, okay, I got 10 hours of material. I'm just going to, you know what I mean?
I do. I don't think you're right about it, but it's a fun theory. I think it's crackpot, but I think it's fun. Sure. No, I think I've even heard, I don't know Louis that well, but I've even heard him say that, there's a couple he wishes he would have waited longer on, on those things. So. But there's like, open micers or whatever. Be like, yeah, man, I get rid of every year I write a new hour. I'm like,
bullshit.
I haven't seen you do 3 minutes. That's that good. Hold on to it, man. You got, where's that joke you did last week that was really good? Keep that for a while, man. Make it better.
So comics were like that back in the day then too. I feel like that's something, because like I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I still do open mics to test out material because I don't get a lot of work. But
right,
it's nice to know that when you started, were like that, I guess.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, there's an open mic in St. Louis on Tuesday nights. I mean, not with coronavirus, but I've been going to that, off and on whenever I'm in St. Louis for 20 years or more,
Yeah. Steve Byrne told me that when he does weekends, he arrives a day early before the Thursday shows or whatever. Because I guess Thursday 1 show, Friday 2 show. I don't know. But he said he arrives a day early and he checks out the open mic around club there, and he takes the best open mic to be his opener.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's really cool. Yeah, that's a nice thing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool that he does that.
Yeah. And he said, I got to tell you, sometimes I'll be there for 4 hours looking for makes the trip long. So Craig, what are your plans when this is over? Like, are you gonna hit the road again and do something?
Yeah, as soon as I can, man. If this, I would love to. Yeah, I mean, I've always worked, 40 weeks a year on the road or something. So I'll.
Do you think it's gonna be a little tougher to get into the smoother things to see how?
I don't. I mean, I've done shows already. I've gone back. I did a few shows the last few weeks. There was a couple clubs that were opened up with limited capacity, and it wasn't hard at all. I mean, that first day maybe you're a little, but it's not. It comes back to you very quickly. Yeah.
Oh, so people were there wanting to laugh, and they were.
Yeah.
Oh.
And again, it comes back to you pretty quickly, man.
Oh, cool. Because I think that's what I'm really worried about is like, because I had a gig at the Improv, but then they canceled it through this whole thing. And I was like, oh. And they're like, oh, you want to do November? I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to get canceled again. You know what I mean? Just by how this is going.
Sure.
So I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of scared to. And it's
you'll get back into it, man. Just continue to write was what I would say. You got this time to write, so
well,
at least have ideas. I'm
doing a lot of podcasting right now because I believe that the only way to be a great stand-up comic is to interview great stand-up comics.
Well, I hope you get some.
I think you're a great.
Just kidding. Thank you. It's kind
of. But it's like going to school. I want to be a headliner someday, but I want to learn from all the other headliners.
Yeah, man. I think everybody has a tip or two.
I like your hat.
Oh, thanks, man.
Is that why you asked me if the video was going to record so you could plug the hat?
No, I was like, do I need to like worry about lighting and all that stuff, or should I just if it was going to be video, man? If you were putting out video, I probably would have been like, all right, man, maybe I'll take a shower or something.
So Craig, I have 2 quick questions, and then because I want to respect your time. But question number 1, is it true that last time you were in LA, you broke someone's cell phone for recording you?
No. I mean, there's some truth to it. When I lived in LA, I was doing a show at the Ha Ha, and there was these guys in the front row that were like talking on their cell phone the whole time, you know, and just like ruining the show. It was a really tiny show. Nobody was there. And these guys were like, there's an inexperienced comic before me, and like they were doing that gag where like the person on the comedian talks on the cell phone, you know, like, hey, let me see your phone. I'm going to talk on it. And then they,
all right,
you know, and then they're the center of attention, which is they wanted to be. And I went up next, and I was like having a bad set, you know, and I was not as good of a comic back then, but I was okay. And I'd been doing it for a while, but I was having a bad set. And then the guy his phone rings, and he just takes a call right in the middle of my set and talks on it. Didn't like go out and talk on it. And so I was like, hey, let me see your phone. And he threw it up because he was sure that I was going to, you know, play the little game of talking on the phone. He'd be the center of attention. And I just chucked it along the floor, and it like skipped along the floor and just hit a wall and burst into like 50 pieces. And then he wanted to fight me, and I was like, oh, we can't fight in the club, but let's go outside, which makes 0 sense at all. And I, you know what? And I tell this story. There's a comedian, Dan Mintz, who's one of the funniest guys I've ever seen. Dan, and he's a really sweet guy. And he came out and like had my back, which was really cool. Yeah.
Did you end up paying for the guy's phone or no?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
Because the guys at the Ha Ha, I didn't. It was like one of the few places I could go up, so I didn't want to like
burning bridges.
I was like, hey, I'll pay for the phone, and it was like the guy was like, yeah, $300 or something. I'm like, there's no way you paid $300 for this phone, but I paid it. So yeah.
At least it wasn't like an iPhone 11 or something.
No, this was like probably 2006 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like a flip phone.
Yeah, it was a flip phone. Yeah, it was a flip phone. Yeah.
Do you remember texting on those flip phones? They were so hard.
Oh yeah, it took forever. Yeah.
Like a podcast is at 1. Okay. And then like so Greg, my last question, I think Alan has one for you. But
sure, man.
Have you ever performed in front of like who's the most famous person you've ever performed for, and did they talk to you after the show, and were they nice?
You mean like non-comics or
It could be a comic or non-comic. I mean,
I'm trying to think, man. I can't even remember, you know. Like, I mean, there's, you know, I lived in New York and LA, so there's comics in the not necessarily in the audience, but in the club when you're doing it. I mean, yeah, sorry, man. I get that's like one of those people things like, who's do you know famous? I'm like, I've met a lot of the comics that are famous, but I know when I lived in LA, there were probably some famous people in the crowd, you know?
Yeah. Mine was Paul Williams, who is he's like a singer-songwriter. You know, he's
award-winning. You know, he won all those songs.
Yeah, he wrote the Academy Awards and stuff, and he comes up to me after a show because I opened up for Craig Shoemaker.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah. And he said, Keith, I just want you to know you're the funniest comic I've ever seen. And I was like, really? Aren't you like 80? You know, I don't know. I'm thinking outside. You know, he's like, so he said that. And then like, I was just like, oh, hey, you want to do my podcast? And he's like, sure. I was like, whoa. So like,
no way, man.
Yeah. So it was just like, so.
Oh, that guy was an actor too, wasn't he?
Paul Williams? Yeah. He's
yeah, no, I'm just looked him up. Yeah, he's like the guy, the short guy in Smoking the Bandit, right? Yeah, Little Enos. Yeah. Oh,
he's
love
a
that guy.
Sweetheart.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
And like that's just my success story of like how, you know, something like that happened. You know, so I was thinking maybe you had like a cool story where like he opened up and Brad Pitt was there, and he said, "Hey, Brad, can I be in your next movie?" And he says, "Sure."
No, man. No.
Right?
I think you got me beat, man. I think you got me beat with Little Enos, man. I wish I could say yeah, Big Enos was one of my shows, and Big Enos Burdett was at one of my shows, and he said, "You want to be in Smokey and the Band at 12?" And I said, "Yeah." I think you got me beat, Keith. Yeah.
Alan, do you have any more questions for Greg before we head out?
Well, I tell you, I see, Greg was a champion wrestler in high school. He had a wrestling athletic deal there in high school. And in an acting class, the teacher said, "Oh, how many of us are athletes?" I was a track guy.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and he said that he noticed that certain actors had a kind of intensity, and this was his theory. If they had an athletic background in high school,
Yeah.
that edge of wanting to win in your event,
Yeah.
would show up even in an audition.
Yeah.
They had that edge, and it's just interesting that he made it. I don't know if it's completely true, but I just throwing it out.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting topic, because I think, especially early on, I had that intensity. Sometimes I think it's a little bit of a drawback in stand-up comedy. It's good in that it's like you need to be intense to sort of get through the whole being bad and working hard and accepting some failure. But I mean, sometimes on stage, it looks like you're a little too attached to the outcome of the event, which I don't think people want to see.
No.
And then, and even in an audition and acting, it's probably the same way. Now, if you can figure out how to be like, the character is attached to, the text, I think that would be good. But I think sometimes it probably was like, oh, this is an actor attached to getting the role rather than the character attached to the emotion of the scene. That almost sounded like I knew what I was talking about when it came to acting, and I want to assure you guys that I do not.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
We should make a podcast called Fake Advice, and Greg.
Yeah, I think while I was talking there, I was like, man, you almost sound like you could be a good actor.
You sold me, man. I was like, holy shit. Well, Greg,
I'll say things like that, and I'm like, well, yeah, why didn't you do that? Yeah.
You ever say something so good just to make someone feel better, and then they're like, "Oh God, that was great advice."
Yeah. I've done that a few times. I'm like, yeah, man, I've never taken this, but yeah, yeah, that's totally true, man.
Well, Greg, where can the folks at home follow you?
Just GregWarrenComedy.com is good. Yeah. And
your special, Greg Warren, Where the Field Corn Grows, is now on Amazon Prime. And
yeah. I would love it if people would check it out. That'd be great.
I watched it this morning, and I thought it was the funniest special. So,
thanks a million, man. I sincerely appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, thanks for doing my podcast, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, you bet. I really enjoyed it, man. It was fun talking to you guys. Thanks, Alan.
Thanks,
Keith. Yeah. Really enjoyed talking to you guys, man.
All right. I'll talk to you later, Greg. Have a good day, pal.
Take care.
Okay. We'll see you later.
All right, guys. That was Greg Warren. So subscribe, rate, and review to the show. Alan, we got to head out. Do you got anything you want to plug out? Like, how's the Zoom stuff?
I love this. I'm glad to be back in LA. I miss this. I'll be quiet. I'll tell you. I was shocked, but I was really, really missing the podcast, and because I was visiting my mom and stuff. And
we should tell the folks the reason why we're not in the studio on the phone interview. I said the reason why we're not in the studio on the phone interview is because we're quarantining you because you went to New York.
Yeah. I didn't want to come in and especially infect you. And I'll be quite frankly, I sure as fuck didn't want you to infect me. And but I'll tell you, this is so cool. I've never had this with my picture on the corner there. This is fantastic.
It kind of freaked me out, and I think it kind of freaked Greg out with her gun. I was like, "Holy shit!" He just,
well, I had to move it from the chair, and look, I'll show you. And I don't want people to get too freaked out.
No, don't show. I don't want to see it again. It's gonna ruin the fans.
No, I'm saying it's a mess of my room.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even know, and this is not a good thing. Can you see what my? Oh yeah.
I see your room. The folks can't see it though.
The light. Oh, I thought you could see that. How messy.
No, we didn't go Facebook Live on this.
But you see the back.
So that was in your favor. The only person you creeped out was Greg and me.
But I mean, I'm saying that they don't see the shelf. I see your shelves.
No, because I'm not Facebook Living. This is just an audio. We're sending in the audio, not this. This is just so we could see each other while we interview.
Oh man, I was all geared up that people were watching. Oh
no, yeah. So what I'm saying is, you got saved. Saved by the gods of podcasts.
But is there one that people do like this and they show everybody and they don't care?
Yeah. I just didn't want to do it.
Oh, beautiful. Well, I enjoyed this a lot, and he did see me though. He saw us, right?
That's what I'm saying. The only people you creeped out was me and him.
Oh, well, that's great. That's fantastic. You can edit it. So I'm glad. This was a hoot. I would do this. I would do this every day.
Yeah.
If I could stay here in my house, as you're in your house. Don't you think that was kind of cool? I mean, look, I felt very relaxed.
I thought for our first Zoom interview, I thought it was perfect.
Good.
We had a great guest. It was funny. A great conversation.
You would do this again?
I would change.
You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.